Remind me.
Lynn, don't forget.
Remind me.
All right, welcome. We'll start the council meeting with the invocation by Councilor Diane Quantz. Diane?
As the signs of new growth and renewal begin to appear all around us, we come in gratitude for the privilege we have to serve this community in its time of revitalization and growth. As we conduct the business of the city this evening, let us keep the attitude of moving forward together ever before us. As we take time to honor the work of those who represent those who have no voice of their own in our community, give us open hearts and minds and listening ears to the children in our community and the way our decisions will impact their future. Help us hear all who cry out for representation and a voice and be courageous enough to speak on their behalf. We thank you for our community and the willingness of our citizens to step up when a need is brought before them. We live in a special place. Assist us to do our part in keeping it that way. Amen.
Pledge allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you, Diane. Appreciate that. Let the minutes reflect. Councilman Gross is absent. There are 6 members present tonight. The minutes also reflect there's a ball game on tonight, so let's get through this pretty quick.
Yes. I'm not going to put that in the minutes.
Yeah, it's not till 9.
Fair to note.
Well, we've been known to go every now and then. All right. Well, thank you. So let's start with the approval of the minutes from the March 20th meeting. Those were presented in board pack, and I'd ask you to consider approving those as presented, or if there are changes necessary, please amend.
Mayor, I did not see any need for changes, so I would move to approve the minutes from March 20th as presented.
All right, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? All right, thank you. All right. Tonight, we're privileged and honored to have a member of CASA, Jason Brandenberry, who is the president of the board. We have got a proclamation for CASA, and I will present that, and then Jason is going to make a few comments. He knows there's a game tonight, but I told him he could have 5 minutes, so. Jason, why don't you come up front? And we'll read this to you as the president of the board. So, whereas April was first declared Child Abuse Prevention Month by presidential proclamation in 1883, whereas CASA of Kosciuszko County nonprofit committed to speaking in the best interest of children who are at risk for abuse and neglect. CASA recruits, trains, and supports volunteers to serve at-risk children and family court system. And whereas in 2022, Kosciuszko County Department of Child Services assessed 1,100 reports of abuse and neglect, and 40% of children currently removed from a home due to abuse and neglect in Warsaw. Whereas in 2022, CASA of Kosciuszko volunteers donated 3,900 hours of their time advocating for 143 abused and neglected children. Whereas child abuse and neglect can have long-term psychological, emotional, and physical effects that have lasting consequences for victims of abuse. And whereas it is imperative that we acquire working knowledge of the phenomenon of child abuse and neglect, and that we demonstrate support for work of both professionals and volunteers involved in providing child protection, rehabilitation, and prevention services. Now, therefore it be resolved, I, Joseph M. Tolmer, Mayor of the City of Warsaw, do hereby proclaim April as Child Abuse Prevention and Awareness Month. Our city officials urge all citizens to recognize this month by dedicating ourselves to the task of improving the quality of life for all children and families of Kosciuszko County. Bring this around to you, Jason.
Did you want to sign that, Joe?
I did.
Oh, okay, great.
Yep, he signed it.
Great, thank you.
So thank you very much, Mayor, for reviewing the proclamation, and thank you to the committee for allowing us to be here tonight. I had a couple very quick, less than 5 minutes things to review. First, some general information for CASA. So CASA stands for Court-Appointed Special Advocates. So it's a nonprofit organization specifically serving Kosciuszko County only. And there's other areas, but this is we're serving Kosciuszko County. And then our volunteers are appointed in cases where in the county where children have been victims of abuse and neglect. And then our job is to see a child a minimum of every 30 days and advocate for their needs, such as medical, mental health, and educational needs to ensure that they are placed have a safe placement. We currently have 55 active volunteers. In 2022, we had 50 active volunteers, as the mayor mentioned. Out of that, we had 3,900 hours of time, volunteer time, for a total of 143 children that were represented and advocated for. And then out of the children that we have right now, 40% of those are from those in Warsaw specifically. And as we mentioned, April is Child Abuse Prevention Month. So there's a few things during this month that we're going to do to help make sure everyone's aware of what that April is Child Abuse Prevention Month. The first one's on April 12th at noon at the Courthouse Square. We're having a march around the courthouse and planting pinwheels to create a pinwheel garden. You may have seen these before. It's a blue pinwheel that is a symbol of child abuse prevention, as it represents the happiness and whimsy of a childhood that we all hope a child can have. On April 17th at Culver's in Warsaw, on US 30 specifically, we have a give back night from 5 to 8 p.m. where a portion of the sales during the time will be donated to CASA. And then we'll also have a representative there to answer any questions that anyone may have on CASA. And on April 25th at Hacienda in Warsaw, we're having a give back day all day long, where a percentage of the sales will be donated back to CASA. There's a little, I put some at the podium right over here, a little sheet just to say that you're there at Hacienda for CASA, and then I think that'll also be available on the Facebook webpage. And then the Courthouse Coffee and Journey Nutrition will have a special smoothie and drinks during the entire Child Abuse Prevention Month as well. And finally, we always need more volunteers, so if anyone's interested in learning more about how to become a CASA volunteer, or how to donate, you can call anytime or visit our website at casachildren.com. So thank you again for allowing me to be here tonight.
All right, any questions of Jason? And thank you so much for your dedication, making a difference. Okay. Okay, new business. Tonight, I'm honored to introduce a new member of the city staff. Tomorrow will be officially named Fire Chief. This is Brian Mayo, and I'll let Denny and Brian talk a bit about Brian's background, and Brian can give just a little bit of a hello, if you will. But one item of business tonight is that state statute requires that if the individual we're naming fire chief is not a member of the current fire department for at least 5 years, he can still be named fire chief, but we have to get approval from the city council to do that. So with that, Brian has got extensive experience. We did a significant internal and external search, came up with what we thought would be a fantastic new fire chief. With that, I'll let Denny speak a bit, and then Brian, you can talk a bit, and then we'll have some discussion and hopefully take care of this item of business.
Okay. Yeah, so we've been eagerly anticipating the arrival of Mr. Mayo, or Chief Mayo. The guys down at the fire department are ready for him to jump in and kind of get things going in the direction that he sees the department needing to go. As you can see, Chief has over 32 years of experience in the fire service, everywhere from a firefighter all the way up to a chief of a different station. So we think that we did a very thorough search and we found the best match for what our situation is, and that's why we're asking for this resolution to be passed to waive the 5-year service requirement for Chief Mayo. And I'll let Chief Mayo give you a background on him. So.
Background, that's a sticky word there. Mayor, council, it's a real privilege to be here. As Denny was saying, 32 years in the fire service. I'm also a 20-year Army retired captain. And most of that time's here in Indiana. So I retired from the Indiana Army National Guard in November of 2019. Most of my 32 years are here in the state of Indiana. Some of it's in South Carolina where I was fire chief. But lots of certifications through Indiana Department of Homeland Security. Lots of working with District 2 as I've worked on this end of the state before. Most of my education, Ivy Tech and Indiana Wesleyan, so I'm pretty much a homegrown person and born and raised in Indy. So much more than that, the resume is kind of dry and no sense in going into it. But again, it's a real privilege to be here. This department, I know a lot of the members from going back from when I worked on the north end of the state, great reputation. I can't wait to get here to start working with them. I'm kind of saddened by the fact that a couple of them are getting ready to retire as soon as I show up, but they've earned it, that's for sure. So again, privileged to be here, and I can't wait to get to work. Today was mostly an HR day, so I didn't get really much fire department stuff done today, so tomorrow's really seems like day one. So,
Brian, would you talk just a little bit about your family?
I am getting ready to be a grandfather. Did you do that on purpose? So I'd have to say that?
Is that you?
So, yeah, so we moved back to Indiana because my daughter is getting ready to have a baby. So we're getting ready to be grandparents first time. Again, I'm born and raised in Indy, so this is coming home for us, and it's a real privilege to be here. We bought a house just on the outside of town, so we're real close and looking forward to being part of the community. I can't wait for a little more warm weather, so the festivals and stuff will start and people get outside a little bit more. Looking forward to it.
All right, thank you.
Any questions from the council?
Not at this time.
All right, so what I'd ask you to do is entertain this resolution. Again, this is a requirement that you all acknowledge that Brian has not been with this department, but have, by state statute, is allowed to be named fire chief with your approval.
Mayor, I would move that we approve Resolution 2023-0401.
I'd second it.
All right, any further discussion? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, passes 6-0. Perfect vote on your first council. Good job. All right. So, all right, well, welcome to our visitors tonight. Jurgen, our potential new councilman, taking notes, I can see. Chairman Reagan and gentlemen, how are you all? Hi in the back. All right. Any questions or comments from our visitors? Okay. I just have one item I want to bring up. Thursday night, we will be across the street promoting the Airport Authority resolution that the county council is poised to consider. But there's been a lot of discussion and unfortunately some pretty significant exaggerations of information. There was an article published in the recent paper about particular individual would have a $400,000 to $500,000 bump in their property taxes with a 3.9 cent per hundred appropriation or add-on. So I went back and looked at our highest county taxpayer, and if the highest county taxpayer started from scratch and had to pay, it would be about $89,000, nowhere near $400,000, $500,000. It's a complete mischaracterization of what we're asking for, and I just want to go on record about that. So All right. Any other comments or questions? All right, well, with that, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
All right, thank you.
This might be a record.
Now, I noticed your page looked like this too. And it used to be that when I went onto the agenda, if I clicked something, it would come up here as a tab, and I could have all my tabs open, and then as the meeting progressed,